Greets everybody. So I decided to go ahead. I'm gonna slam this Crown Vic a couple inches. You see there's some dust on it. I'm actually doing two things. I'm buffing it, buffing out the paint, and I'm gonna do the lowering. But for the rear lowering, what I'm gonna do is from what I've heard on some of the forums, these right here are GT500 springs, and they should give it about 2-inch drop in the rear. So it's just basically a remove and replace on that. And then for the front, I'm going to pull the struts, take the coils out, cut exactly one coil out of the front struts, and that should give me about 1.5 inches, 2 inches up front. So I've already done my measurements to see where I'm at right now. So I'll shoot some video here as I go along. But first thing, I'm going to get the back up the back up in the air, and then I got to loosen the shocks and the sway bar, drop the axle down, switch the springs out, and I don't know. I think I'll probably be able to knock this out today. I've got that on, so I'm a little bit slow, but we'll see how I do. All right. Okay, so I got the shocks disconnected. I've got the sway bar end links disconnected. So all that's really left to do, and it's kind of nutty because I'm not quite sure. Right behind here is the spring. I don't know if the towel's going to do much. My thought is maybe the spring's going to come flying out when I drop the axle, but if so, let's have my final moments on camera. Ready? Here we go. Ooh. Oh my God, I just see a spring flying through the quarter panel. Taking me out. Oh, jeez. Okay, so I think that's all the axle's going to go down. Let's take a look. Oh, it's still under. Still under a little bit of pressure. Make sure it's not hanging up on anything like a brake line. Those things are important. Sort of loose, but not totally loose. Let's see. Let's check over here. Now it should. I'm gonna have to have somebody push down on the axle, and then the spring will come out. Anyway. Okay, all right. See you in the next video. Okay, so I almost wet myself because I got the old springs out. Those are the old rears right there. And I stood them up to what I thought were the new fronts. And I said, wait a minute, these both have pigtailed ends, top and bottom. This is not right. Well, I was right about that. It turns out that what I thought were the fronts, these are them. These are the rears. You can see the pigtail top. This is real similar to this, and it's got it on the bottom. So these should fit right in, and you can see that's how much drop I'm going to get. Now keep in mind the spring rate is probably a little bit higher. So yeah, probably going to be right about 2 inches of drop. So, all right, keep chugging along here. The rear's done. So those are the GT500 springs. It came out to, it's going to sag probably another 1/4 inch, but it came out to 1 3/4 inches. So it'll sag another 1/4. It'll be a 2-inch drop. So now I'm going to start up on the fronts. A little more of an involved job. I got to pull off the strut and then cut the front spring and then reassemble. And I've done it before. It's just time consuming. So see you in the next video. Oh my God. Videos do not do justice what I just went through to get that strut out. Wow. Anyway, I'm going to use spring compressors, compress the spring, take the hat off it right there, chop a coil, put it back together, and reinstall it. Wow, I'm out of breath. All right, see you in the next video. I got a coil cut off it. Here's the coil. And to do that, I had to use the spring compressors, these right here, and compress the spring and then take the hat off right here. I didn't use enough compression when I was using the spring compressors, and it was scary. It was very scary. Anyway, so this one's done. This is going to go back on the car, and then we'll do the other side. All right. Okay, I'm done. And let me tell you, I am beat up from the feet up. I don't know why this job was so, I've lowered many cars. This one just beat the crap out of me. I think probably because I've got my boot. But anyway, so got it done. The backs, just to recap, the backs I did the GT500s. That was easy. That took me about an hour and a half. I just switched I switched the stock ones, which are right here, and put the GT500 springs in it. That gave me about 2 inches of drop. So what I wanted up front was 2 inches of drop. What I did the driver's side first, and it took me a long time just because I took it apart a little different than I did last time. I had a Marauder, and I pulled the upper A-arm, and this time instead of doing that, I left the upper A-arm in place and just separated it at the joint that connects the upper A-arm to the spindle. So I did that. So the first time it took me about an hour to figure that out, and then to get the spring out. So it took me like almost an hour and a half, 2 hours to get that done, get the spring out. So I cut one coil out of the spring and put it back together, and it just seemed like it wasn't quite as low as I really wanted it to go. Now, mind you, they have to settle a little bit, but I wanted it a little bit lower. So what I did was, when I did check this out. When I did the passenger side, which I breezed through because I had already done the driver's side, I ripped through the passenger side. What I did on the passenger side is, so here's the driver's side, one complete coil. On the passenger side, I did 1.5 coils. And what I got about another 1/2 inch drop. Doesn't sound like a lot, and basically, I knew when I was doing that I was going to have to go back and cut another 1/2 coil off the driver's side, but it's not real noticeable. It's about a 1/2 inch of drop difference, so just under a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to see how much it sags, how much more it settles, I should say. If it stays at where it's at, it's about a 1/2 inch difference. It's less than a 1/2 inch difference between the driver's side and the passenger side. I'll probably just leave it instead of pulling the driver's side apart again. If it settles more than a 1/2 inch, I'll probably just pull that and cut a 1/2 coil. What I wouldn't want happening is I pull that apart, take a 1/2 coil out of the driver's side, and then it gets even lower. But anyway, as far as ride goes, it rides really good. Much better than stock. It's a little firmer. It really corners well. My plans for this car, I'm probably going to do wheels on it, or I'm going to do a widened. These are cop wheels. I'm going to do a widened cop wheel with some really fat tires and keep the cop look. If I do wheels on it, the cop look will go away. I haven't decided yet, but got some other stuff. I got to finish buffing out the paint. I've got a few hours buffing out and making the paint perfect. And it'll just be a really good driver, this car. I'm going to put some big sway bars on it, some handling stuff on it. Just my goal is just to make it maybe a little bit quicker, but really believe it or not, they make a lot of handling parts for these cars. Front and rear sway bars, big front and rear sway bars, control arms in the back, upper and lower control arms. A couple other little tricks. I know all the tricks for these cars. But as far as the lowering goes, how much it cost me, it's going to cost me nothing. It's just going to cost me my time, because when I bought the GT500 Springs, I got a complete set of them for $50. So there's the fronts that I don't need, and I can sell those easily for $50. So it'll be a wash. Won't cost me anything. There's the old rears. Those will be going to the metal recycling place. Anyway, I'm done. I'm just crawling over the finish line. This was a major ass kicker. I'm glad it's over, but I'm really happy with the results. Once I finish out the car, it'll be a great little driver. I'm going to change out the headlights and the markers. I'm going to do some Marauder style. I've got a really neat grill coming for the car. It's a badgeless grill. It's honeycomb. Nice little look. And I got to do the exhaust on it. And other than that, that's it. So, all right. Take care. Bye. What's up, everybody? It's Jeff. So, it's been a couple of days since I lowered the Crown Vic. I've healed. I'm back to normal. I was pretty painful yesterday. I mean, not too bad, but I could feel it. But I got done color sanding the entire car. And you know, if you're not familiar with color sanding, basically what it is you're sanding the paint with an ultra fine sandpaper. In fact, here's a scrap of it right now. This is, what is this one? This is 1500 grit. So 1500 grit. So there's 1500 grits per inch. So gives you an idea of what it's like. And when it really activates, you know, you do the whole thing. It's called wet sanding. You do the whole thing with a soapy water solution, and you go through and you can really knock down a lot of the imperfections from the factory, like orange peel. You can remove bird dropping damage. I had a bird dropping hit right, and it was right in here. It was right in here somewhere. But I color sanded. You got to be careful you don't go through the clear, because if you go through the clear, it's game over. With 1500 grit, and I actually do 1500, and then I follow it up with 2000, and then I use a high-speed polisher. Now, I'm sure you've heard of high-speed polishing. You've heard all the horror stories, and somebody's brother's, mother's, uncle's cousin had a car who, you know, somebody used a high-speed polisher on it and burned it. And, you know, that's entirely possible. You put a tool in any idiot's hands, they can screw anything up. But modern technology with the high-speed polishers for maybe, gosh, you know, going on 20 years now, everything is foam pad. You can see there's foam pads that I use. I rarely use wool pads anymore. In the old days with the wool pads, you could do damage quickly. Paint jobs weren't as durable as they are today. There weren't clear coats, and you could fry paint. I'm actually an expert with a high-speed polisher. I've just done it a lot. But you can see this is factory paint. And it's really time consuming, because you have to do a panel at a time, cut it with the gray bottle you see right there. And then after you cut it, you got to wipe it down, and then you got to switch to that black pad and then use the other compound you see there. And then hit it, you know, then you seal it with some wax, but you can see it really can. Now mind you, this paint is 10 years old. You know, it's not perfect, but a lot of the flaws that came out of it, it would fool a lot of people. I'm OCD when it comes to cars, so, you know, I notice every single little tiny flaw, but for the most part, anybody looking at this car, they're going to think it's been repainted. All I did was color sanded it. So that's that. Just wanted to shoot a follow-up video to it. I got one other thing that I'm doing. I made a badgeless grill, and I'm going to take that over to paint. I had bought one from someone, kind of learned how to do it, and then I figured how to make my own. This is my first one I've ever made. It's not great, but you notice no emblem in the middle, no Ford emblem. So I'm going to have it painted same color as the car, and then probably what I'll do, of course the ring around it will be gloss just like the car. Probably what I'll do after that is shoot the mesh flat black. So it's a real aggressive look. It looks neat. You don't have any ugly Ford emblem. I can't stand the emblems. I really can't stand emblems or markers or badges on anything. Even on this one, I had the grill painted, but I plastic dipped the front emblem, and I would love to get rid of the rear one that's on the trunk. Probably what I'll do is I can try and remove it and maybe just plug the holes with some caps. But usually what happens is around the oval it abrades the paint. I don't know. I might get away. Ooh, I got a couple of scratches. I got to hit right there. See that? Usually when you pull this, you've got some damage all the way around it. So I don't know. Do something with that. But anyway. You know, if any of you are wondering why I'm putting so much energy into this car, you're thinking, oh, it's just an old cop car. Well, you probably don't know about these cars. A lot of people don't know about them. But because they were police cars, everything on them is very heavy duty, built to last. I mean, think of a New York City taxi cab. It's basically the same car. They run into the millions of miles. And I just have always kind of had a hobby with these cars. I think I've owned over a dozen of them. I know all the little hop-up tricks. So what I like about them is you can make a sleeper out of them. You can make them pretty quick. If you really want to throw a lot of money in them, you can make them really quick. You can put a blower on them. But what I like to do, I do all the handling tricks. So I'll do I think I mentioned in my video, but I'll do all the handling stuff to them. And they actually bone stock without doing anything. They actually handle pretty good. But with a couple of minor tweaks, you can make them handle like they're on rails. Parts are really cheap on them. And especially with this car just scares the crap out of people. It looks like a black government car. They're coming to get you because you didn't pay your taxes car, right? I say that because it's tax day today and I just paid my taxes and I'm basically broke. Anyway, all right, take care.